Welcome to the second episode of Agony in Her Voice. Before we dive into the story, don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel for more captivating episodes and epic tales from talented writers across Africa. Stay tuned for stories that will leave you inspired and wanting more. Chapter 3. I could see my fingers trembling slightly as I waited in my office. It was not because of cowardice. No, I think it was anxiety working on my nerves. The truth was that I bad confronted more girls, though most of them less beautiful, in my life. One of my many worries now was how to explain my presence in the office on a Saturday night. Suppose Sister Christina decided to pop in and sit. Supposing Pauline then came in while she was there. I had to hope for the best. I saw the girl I had sent to call Pauline running back to my office and braced myself for the worst. She has refused, I thought. I found her bathing, and she said she would be here in 3 minutes, Mr. Kinyo. Good. Thanks, I said in a resonant voice, putting on a very official touch. My nose again. My nose was already sweating. This hell of a nose was a nuisance. It had caused me considerable embarrassment on several critical occasions. Once or twice, I had even thought of taking it to a doctor for a thorough checkup. But somehow, I never did because one day I had quietly told Mr. Murithi, the head of biology in the school, about it, and he had burst out laughing at my ignorance. Glands? My dear fellow, those are glands, and doctors can never take out a person's glands. Because of sweat, he had pronounced and walked smartly away, doubled up with mirth. I had dropped the idea. Today I wondered whether I had not been a fool to drop the idea, but it was too late. So I fished a handkerchief out of my pocket and dabbed the nose. Come in, Pauline. Sit down. She sat directly opposite me, so that the writing desk stood between us. This meant I could not see her thighs. I quietly cursed and promised that if I had to meet her alone again, it would be in the staff room where sofa seats faced each other, and there was no table to stand between us. You mean you can have a cold bath at this hour? I wouldn't for anything, I declared, trying to create a friendly air. I was sure she had not yet forgotten the incident in class, so it was up to me to convince her that I had no ill feelings at all. I like cold water at night, she smiled shyly. I could give you an electric kettle to use, but secretly. No, even at home, I can't wash with hot water. She laughed more easily. It makes me feel very lazy. Even closer. Aye, then we are totally different, I said in a very much less official tone. But could she not see that we were different? Well, I called you to find out whether you are broke in case I could do something, I said, pulling out a wad of notes. It would shame Josephat and Aida to hear that you are penniless. When I am here, I decided to use her parents' Christian names to make our friendship sound. I still have some 93 shillings, so I think I am fine. She did not even thank me, but I blamed that on her linguistic background. The only problem is coffee. My Nescafe got finished a week ago, and when I asked Miss Weru permission to go and buy more at the shops, she refused. Don't be silly, Pauline, I answered in a hard tone. Don't you know where my office is? I am very sorry, she said, with such tenderness that I felt the blood rush into my head. God, I thought. You should have come to me. In fact, it is easier for me to walk to the shops myself and get everything you need. You need only come to pick them up from here. I'll try to get you coffee tonight. Thank you very much, Mr. King. Patty. I waved at her silence with a Mr. Can't you call me Julio? She smiled, twisted her neck once or twice, and looked down. She was at ease. She must have been surprised that there was no talk of punishments. I sensed I was becoming very nervous. My nose was oozing sweat profusely. I cursed Moretti. Now should I tell her my feelings? Mudo thought, suppose someone is outside in the dark listening. Suppose, in fact, someone was just now standing somewhere watching? I decided to postpone the game. Today I would play the good parent. Another thing, Paulini, I began, and felt my left eyelid twitch, is last week's incident in class. I saw a change come over her. The relaxed mood disappeared and tension came. I wanted to tell you that I am sorry about it. I have been looking for a chance to come and apologize, but I feared you might still be angry, she said, visibly apologetic. No. I think it was my fault. I shouldn't have reacted the way I did. I was trying to play my cards well. One should have respected your maturity as an old land girl. I almost said lady, but that would have been taking it too far. So I limited the game to girl. And of course, considering that you are just a girl and I am no better than a bachelor, I paused to see her reaction to that, but she did not seem to have caught it. I think I should have been more careful. But it was my fault because I was writing letters in class, she insisted. This gave me a favorable opening. My cool plan was to separate her from the stupid Mbatao. I thought the best way to do it was not to show her how ugly, poor, etc., Mbatao was. That might upset my plans. I knew how crazy the 19 and 20 years olds could be about that steady boyfriend and future husband. Rubbish. So I would play on that angle. It's a long time since I saw Mbatao, I ventured. She cast me a glance and looked down. I think I have met him about 3 times at Kanyakini. What does he do there? If she did not answer. This I was not prepared to go any further. She did, however, answer. That is where he comes from. Do all his brothers and sisters stay at Kanyakini? I asked, trying to lay my trap. I was not very sure how I would use it, but as if God was on my side, she came to my rescue. He has no brothers and sisters. He was born alone, she said, in a very frail voice. This was Ray chance, and I was not going to miss it. Are you sure, Pauline? I asked, false curiosity written on my face. You are sure Mbatao has no sisters? I repeated the question, exaggerating a bit. That is what she told me. He, I said, correcting her. A boy is he, remember? She smiled shyly and tried again. That's what he told me. He always tells me so. I see. That's funny, I said deliberately. Why? She asked. Well, I thought I had always met him with his younger sister. She looked younger than him. About 18 or 19, I said, trying to make my voice sound as matter of fact as possible. Sister? There was a mixture of doubt and jealousy in her voice. I don't know, but that's what he told me, I said, knowing very well that I was telling a lie. At least he has introduced her to me 3 times. Her name is Grace, except one day he forgot and called her Joyce. I decided to cement the lie, hoping that the next morning I would find myself in the confession box before the sacrament was due. You look offended, I half stated. Half asked. She was not listening. He has been cheating me. Good. She must be his girlfriend. She looked even more attractive when she was so confused. That's the trouble with boys. I took up the cue. One can never be sure with them. I continued. They will always say this, say that. But they are never, never steady with a girl. But he has never abused me, she said. You think he would abuse you? Never. But I know boys. They are a treacherous lot. Patty, but he was not like that. How about this story then? You see what a girl of your age and charming looks needs is not this rubbish of flirting with boys. You need a steady man who will give you happiness. She was listening, apparently attentively. You know girls grow very fast, especially when they are brought up under civilized care. So, my dear Pauline, what that boy should know is that you are not a cheap girl who runs around with any ruffian who shows up. You are a child of good upbringing, very good manners. I remembered my literature lesson, and very beautiful. Have you ever thought about marriage or getting a mature man to teach you real womanhood? She did not answer. Obviously, she was very green in this field. I waited for a long minute then. Have you, Pauline? What? The question caught me unawares. I mean, to have a real man who loves you and can teach you everything? She recoiled. Look, Pauline, these young boys are dangerous. They will do it and leave you Patty. Do what? I had not imagined the girl could be so naive. How could I start explaining the do it in my office? I felt my courage begin to ebb away and struggled to keep it afloat a little further. Do not fool with me, Pauline. I know you are old enough. In fact, that you are a mature woman who knows what I am talking about. I don't know what you are talking about, she said, with a tone of finality. She let me rumble again through my incoherent sermon on the badness of boys, Satan's tricks, the wisdom of having a grown-up man, my willingness to help in all ways. I ended with emphasis on the importance of preserving her rare beauty. I would hate to see any fools playing about with you. In another moment, she had fled out of the office, either disgusted, baffled, or both. Left alone, I felt a sense of defeat. I definitely had made an ass of myself. How could I have failed to talk straight to a 19-year-old girl? I pulled out another handkerchief and dabbed my unfortunate nose. Just 19, and I with almost 50 good years of hard tackle on women. And now, maybe background fears still had a quiet grip on me. She had been born into a rich home, and I had been born into, well, that of a poor woman. I guess the man, my father, must have been poor too, or else he would not have denied me before I was even born, nor would he have disappeared from the small town altogether. Anyhow, after Father Rocco had seen me, through high school and after taking my degree at St. John's College, Cambridge, I had become a big man, and my poor background never harrowed me again, at least not much. In 1957, Father Rocco, who was about to retire back to Mexico because of his age, described my wedding in one word: fabulous. Of course, little did he know at that time that one evening 7 years later, still childless, I would stumble on my wife in the coffee chamber behind the school chapel with another man on top of her. Still less did he know that I would chuck her out of my house and stay alone for many years to come. I had been too dismayed to marry again, but now I seem to have forgotten much of that. I was ready for a comeback. At almost 50, I still looked fairly handsome. In my younger days, I had been the envy of many a youth, and many a beautiful girl had fallen prey to my delicate tongue. My jet black hair, my bushy eyebrows, my piercing eyes, and above all, my beautifully rounded calves had all been an asset in my ventures. But now age and its unkind effects were creeping on slowly. My withering calves were always in a pair of long trousers. I no longer sported a moustache. My once attractive jet black hair was half gone, and in its place stood a shiny bald head. And then there was the constant problem of my nose. I wondered whether this young girl would ever get over these and give me her love, if one could call it love. I walked miserably to my house to prepare for Sunday. Father Kerith walked slowly through his sermon. The good thing about this man was that he always saw a chance to utilize almost every situation. The note I had sent him on Saturday morning had read simply, "Father, is it possible for you to give a sermon to our girls in connection with their morals tomorrow, especially their relations with boys at a young and therefore dangerous age like theirs, please?" It seems he always had the right sermon for any occasion. "Yes, I am addressing you now, you young girls. I am." He paused, looked around, and continued, "It is against holy teachings, against our customs, but above all, dangerous for your lives." I turned around slowly, and my gaze landed on Pauline, who happened to be looking at me. I doubt whether it was for any purpose that she was looking at me, other than that my slowly turning head had simply caught her attention. Anyhow, I fixed her with a "do you hear" look and turned back to the priest. "Just like a ripe banana." He paused. I was beginning to wonder how a ripe banana had come to church when he continued, "You eat it and cast away the useless peelings. Only goats, sheep, and cattle will eat them." I realized with happiness what he was at. I encourage friendship because we are God's children, but be careful because it is you, the girls, who in the end will suffer. Do you hear? Do not make yourselves the bananas whose sweeter parts will be eaten by careless boys, while the rest of you is thrown out of the window. 2. The pigs. The temptation to turn and look at Pauline was stifling, but then other eyes would be on me. So I let the feeling that she had had her share of the beating suffice until later from my brief. Daydreaming, I caught the priest saying, "Great care, may the Lord be with you." I joined others to shout back, "May he be with your spirit." Chapter 4. I did not want kinder to escape me. That would be to admit defeat at the hands of a mere toothless student. So one day, a few days after the sermon, I sat down alone in my house to draw up a comprehensive strategy. First, I looked through my old diary for the address of a biologist who had once told me her department had been engaged in studies on ways of restoring her to bald heads, I drafted a brief letter to inquire whether the experiments had been a success. Second, I decided that evening I would take Mr. Morathi to the Morado bar for a bottle or two of Pilsner, after which I would extract as much information on glands as he could remember. Third, I decided to increase, with pain, my nephew's pocket money from 30 to 50 shillings per term. This would be an inducement good enough to make him spy on his friend Mbatao all the time and confuse Kainda whenever they met. Once she was confused, it should be easy for me to win her over. Fourth, I decided to take up the responsibility of giving permission to the students who wanted to leave the school premises. This meant that whenever Kainda wanted to leave the school, she would have to come to me for permission, and I would get more chances of talking to her alone. This would limit the chances of her going out to meet Mbato. Last, I decided that no clubs would go out again or entertain visiting clubs except in the second term of each year, and each club would go out only once. When Sister Christina heard of my fourth and fifth decisions, a week later she thanked me. At the next staff meeting, she labeled me a dedicated parental old man who cared for the well-being of the students and the healthy state of the school bank account. By limiting club trips, she said, I had put a very necessary limit on the outflow of school funds. My fellow teachers were asked to emulate my good example. My plan with Mr. Morathi did not pay off. After giving him 3 bottles, he offered himself another 2 and became very drunk and confused. When I asked him about the glands in the nose, he burst out laughing again and told me I was tickling his toe of biology. He took another heavy swig at his Pilsner, and the glands were forgotten. I never heard from the biologist, but I heard from my nephew more frequently 4 days after he got his new allowance. He found himself with Mbatao and 3 other friends at the Jogu joint in the heart of Meru town. So, how are you, Mbatao? My nephew asked. Don't be silly, my friend. Mbatao answered lightly and asked for another bottle of Tusker. Export. He pulled out a new 100-shilling note and gave it to the barmaid. It isn't money that is important, one of the boys, Kayambi, said mockingly. You are not a beggar. Try for something better. Po, my friend. Po is the best policy. The girl is still green, a bit uninformed. But I'll get her somehow. Mbatao swallowed half a glass. You are lucky all the same. If I had a girl to give me 50, only 50 shillings from her pocket, money, I would be drunk every day, Mugambi confessed. Even if she was as ugly as a stone, I would close my eyes and go on. And yet yours is beautiful, said Mbogo, and gives you 100. Party. 200, Mbatao corrected proudly. What's your next plan? Mugambi asked. To confuse her totally and see her in my bed, or in the bush if the bed becomes difficult. His friends cheered him wildly, the free beer taking its effect. She says I must marry her. These girls with marriage, put in Kiambi. The other day I wanted to kiss a former 3 girl from Kaga Girls High School, and do you know
What, she asked me. The others shook their heads.
Will you marry me? I was baffled. He reached for another bottle. Well, Batao said, Kinda is rich and beautiful. If I had time and money to fool her father, I would one day marry her. 15 years from now. The schoolboys laughed.
She will have long died of old age, Umbogo said, beginning to see double images.
Nonsense. She's only 19, said Mugambi. Anyway, give me time. I know my tricks, but she is a bit hard.
You'll marry her all the same, said Mugambi. Rubbish. Let me enjoy myself for half a year.
And I'll forget about the Form 3 girl.
They shared the last bottle and staggered noisily out of the bar. The following week, I got a letter from Mugambi. In it, he thanked me for the money, told me how he had always known what a kindly old uncle he had, and lastly informed me that Kinda
Had taken to the habit of sharing her pocket money with Mbatao. This piece of information got
me into a bad fix. Of course, I always knew there would come a time when Mbatao and I would openly compete for the girl. I thought I had prepared myself for it. I had already bought a new set of clothes to offset the K, nose and bald head disadvantages. Model
could take full advantage of proximity, but my biggest hope had been money. I would use money, if need be, to blind her. But here she was, callously feeding the boy on money I did not need to be told that if I gave her money, she would pass it on to Mbatao. The boy would still be the winner.
After racking my poor brains, I hit upon a plan and congratulated myself. The plan was very
simple. Eliminate Mbatao. I would get some money, smear it with poison, and give it to her. Model
knew she would pass it on to the boy. Let him handle the poison, and if, by any chance, he ate anything using his hands, he would be gone in a matter of days. I drifted into dreamland there as
I lay on my back on the bed, staring blankly at the whitewashed ceiling. I could see the boy,
greedily grabbing at the money, rushing to Jogu for a beer, drinking it with a roasted leg of chicken in his right hand. Stomach complaints 2 days later. The D ... The word could not
form in my head. Kinda crying. I, the only friend remaining, calling her and comforting her in my house. Trying a kiss, which she gives uncomplainingly, holding her tight. The mission clock chimed.
1 o'clock after midnight. And as I fell asleep, I could see poisoned notes in Mbatao's hands.
Next morning, one woke up very fresh. I had a cold bath, shaved my beard, combed the little hair. That still remained on my head and settled down to read Joseph Conrad's Lord Jim. I went half
through the author's notes, but soon found my mind wandering through the previous night's plan. Poison. 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 I was shocked by the plan. I wondered whether I had been in my right mind. In the first place, I had never handled poison in my life, and the idea of handling it
now because of Kinda was all too chilling. In the second place, I wondered how I could give the poisoned notes to Kinda without her touching the poison. If it could kill Mbatao, why could it not kill the girl? I must be getting old, I told myself aloud and dismissed the wickedness. I decided to fight like a man. That afternoon, I posted 2 letters, one long one to Mr. Kinoti in Nairobi, and a short one to my nephew. It somehow never crossed my mind that Mugambi could start wondering why I
was taking such a keen interest in the girl, nor did it cross my mind that he too was a man, or at least a boy, and that if he saw Mabatao and Kainda apart, he might possibly want to try his luck. I simply asked him to try all he could to make sure that the affair was destroyed. I promised him 80 shillings, pocket money, in future.